The Heed the Call podcast wants you to tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Wow, we're going for it, huh? We're bringing back Tell the Truth. All right, here we are. Welcome to Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler on a Tuesday night. Here we are in Los Angeles, watching very closely everything that's going down over in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine, where the press conferences for coaches and GMs kicked off. Sessy, we just got back from a nice dinner with our representation, and I know you're very excited for tonight's show.
I'm excited. I mean, you know, when you and I started at NFL.com and like a newsroom that had been a previous, I think it was like some sort of factory for data collection or something before it became a newsroom. Like I remember the first day that I like taught you how to use the computer. Had I known that like a decade and a half later, we would be out with our agents, like with people that have helped us and we help them and we love them, like with our ladies and having drinks. Like I would never have thought that would have been a reality. That seems out of control. And I think I've also I've spun into a scenario where like most listeners are like, "F you." So I get that too. Like that, they're like, you now are no longer part of our community. We don't like you anymore. But like, where I'm going with this is just to say, like, it was a great night.
Yeah, we were out to dinner. Maybe Sessy had a glass of white wine, and that's the monologue how we opened the show. Yeah. You know, I'm very happy, Marc, though, that as we spin through these press conferences, that we're going to glean so much information about the league. We need someone else's guiding hand. So let's welcome.
We definitely do.
From a different time zone, the great James Palmer.
Gentlemen, I have not had a few Chardonnays, what have you. You didn't think you'd get a Big Daddy reference right away, did you? Right out the gate.
So we got Concussion, the Will Smith Concussion movie that nobody saw. We got that box checked. Mm-hmm. And now we have a 24-year-old Adam Sandler feature. Got that as
What's
well.
What's that kid doing these days?
Tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the truth.
Will really was pushing hard for the statue that year.
Yeah, he was elusive. Until he smashed.
What's up, James?
Guys. It's great to see you. It's not the same, though. When we were all living together, bunking up, It felt good. It felt real good. And I'm not going to lie. I've already liked all of you guys. I got to hang out with Jason. Super stoked about that. Yeah. But the real winner of the entire time was my wife. Man, does she love the Heed the Call boys. Woo!
And we love her.
Meg. We love Meg. She's great.
What a great fit.
You guys.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, we did a live show, that Thursday night before we got on the plane and got back to LA, Super Bowl week, and you know, we had a nice time in the kitchen afterwards, eating old pizza, drinking booze, listening to tunes.
A lot of Oasis.
Yeah, a lot of Oasis. You know who else was there actually? Party J and
Connor
Engraver.
Connor was it?
Party J, and your mom's name again, Justin?
Elise.
Party Elise. You know, it does strike me because Justin moved to Texas, and I apologize. This was kind of a audible to knock out the show a little bit later. Justin getting dinged a little bit on the time zone right now with the taping, and I think he's wearing a bathrobe right now.
Yeah.
No. I can explain. So what's happening is I have a very clingy, needy wiener dog who's sitting underneath my shirt.
Oh. What else you got under there?
Wait, you're putting snacks. The dog. Hold on. The dog is going underneath your garment.
The dog, he likes to be warm and close.
Skin?
Fur on skin. Yeah, I don't mind. I love my dog.
That is a nice wild revelation just now that you have an actual canine.
With a
pressed
horse
up against your skin under your clothing as you're producing Heed the Call. Marc, this is Texas Justin just hits a little different.
Yeah. I do acknowledge that I think Justin saw this out of the gate as a day off where he could he just moved and like no I'm not this is Justin, hear me out. Like this was a day where he could compartmentalize, like you're moving into a house. You got it. Like he showed us via phone, like a lot of unpacked boxes. And I would imagine that, Jessica, the lovely Jessica, and the dog that's underneath his garment thought that this would be a time where you go and work on the household. But instead, we've wrangled you at 11:23 p.m. back into this world. And so wherever you're at, Justin, I accept you.
I accept you.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Do you have certain shirts that are in a different pile for dog wearing?
Great question.
Good question.
Because they're
Important
sized,
question.
they have to be
Reporter's
sized
question.
different. Yeah, they have to be sized different.
No, he likes it tight actually. So this shirt's a little looser. This is sort of my night shirt because again, 11:24 now. But no, if he's sitting near me and he's cold, he will just start digging into my stomach until I put the shirt over him. So that's sort of
you are. I also want to say you are psychotic on some level. Like none of this makes sense to other people. But good luck to you.
Climb up inside.
Well, you're multitasking, and we respect the hell out of you, Justin, and thank you for your hard work here on this Tuesday night. We're going to, quick and dirty, we're going to roll through the press conferences and share what mattered, what didn't matter. I think, Mark, it's safe to say that, a lot of the stuff here maybe isn't at the highest level of news, but this is how the sausage gets made ultimately, and so many of the offseason storylines. And we know it because, James covering the game on the ground floor, and Mark and I, all the years we spent emanated out of the NFL media newsroom, blogging and just following the story. So many storylines start with what the GM or coach said at Indianapolis when you talk about the various, soap opera plot lines about the 32 teams. So here we are at the beginning of that yellow brick road.
And what they don't say, right, James? Like it's we've all been to these, and you have to start to learn to parse through what the syntax is, what they're saying. And I have gotten to the point where a lot of these, I'm like, I don't chalk them up as data or news on any level, but there's little kernels, there's little nuggets, and we start to learn things. And I think like being there and being out at this time at night in Indianapolis, which would be late, that's where you learn some real stuff, James. Like you've been there in the scrums with the hardcore people.
Yeah, it wouldn't be late. We'd be out several more hours in Indy, and that's when the stuff happens. Happens late. I do think in the press conferences, though, I know all of these players are coached heavily. These GMs and head coaches are coached prior to taking the podium on what to say, what not to say. But there are, you mentioned, the little nuggets. It's have you started having conversations with free agent to be player X or for an extension with player B, or, there were some things that came out like, Jason Peters is now retired and now part of the front office. Like that just comes out from John Schneider and the Seahawks. So there are some things if you ask enough, and then there's the on the podium, and then the head coach and GM do the beat, and they do just the beat exclusive after for just the guys in that city. And then they do the car wash from spot to spot. They're asked 1,000 questions, and they're all the same. None of them are any different. But there are little things you can dig up, and that's usually over at Prime or
little kernels that we'll come back to as we get into the news. A little a cappella version of one of Mark's favorite songs that I've ever written for him. Come back, Colonels, with Marc Sessler. 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 Come back. It just goes like that.
So it's me who had the glass of wine. We are on a show that is occurring at this moment, by the way.
Let's get into it. The news begins with, let's talk with a little bit of, we mentioned the soap opera. Listen, everybody's got a take about the Tush Push.
Oh.
The Tush Push, the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, who have mastered that 3rd and short, 4th and short goal line play where they get low with leverage, and there goes Jalen Hurts sneaking for 1, 2, 3 yards, always seemingly getting where they need to be. This rankles a lot of people. And I'll say, for instance, from my perspective, I respect what the Eagles have been able to pull off with the Tush Push. And it's not just them. Other teams do it as well now. But the Eagles, of course, are the ones that are famous for it. I don't enjoy it as a football play watching it. And I know I'm not alone with that also. So I'm kind of on the fence with it. I'm the old Sessler sitting on the fence on this one. But people have takes. And it came out, the report, that there was a team that when it comes to the rules committee making changes, that actually went up and had the bravery / gall to propose eliminating the Tush Push. And then quickly it leaked out that it was the Green Bay Packers who were the team that proposed banning the Tush Push. Let's start with Nick Sirianni. Let's start with the head coach of the champion Eagles. His thoughts on this story, which seemingly is unkillable.
We work really, I almost feel a little insulted because we work so hard at that play. I can't tell you how many times we practice the snap, we practice the play, because it's not a play that it's easy to practice. There's different ways we figured out how to practice it. Like the fact that it's an automatic thing, that like we work really, really hard, and our guys are talented at this play. And so it's a little insulting to say it's just we're good at it, so it's automatic. We work really hard at it.
He loves this shit. And let's look at a dissenting opinion from Raheem Morris, who spoke out on his thoughts that the Tush Push needs to go away.
I thought it should have been illegal 3 years ago. No, the Tush Push play, I was never been a big fan. There's just no other play in our game where you can absolutely get behind somebody and push them, pull them off, do anything to be able to use it. I never really understood it and why that was legal. So I'm definitely going to be one of those guys voting against that.
Yeah, well, the Falcons coach with a smile and a laugh. And yes, Brian Gutekunst, the GM of the Packers, did confirm it was indeed the Packers that are trying to make it happen. Your thoughts, boys?
I got notes. I brought receipts. I think this is blasphemy. This is like when Lou.
Where'd you grow up, by the way, James?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay,
This is like when Lou Alcindor was just dunking on everybody, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Stop dunking on everybody. We're going to ban the dunk."
Right.
I had some stats here for you guys, which I find it funny, by the way. Brian Gutekunst saying we weren't very good against it, and it's I'm going to put out something out there. They're one of 3 teams that stopped it more than once this season, the Packers. So they actually were pretty decent about it. They stopped it twice. The Eagles went 1 for 3 on it against the Packers. Look that up. How about this? Success rate, getting a first down or a touchdown. 2023, when everybody said this was Jason Kelce, and he was the big reason why this was happening, they were at 83.7. They went 36 of 43 on the Tush Push, either getting a first down or a touchdown. This past year, they dropped to 76.5%. They went 39 of 51. Okay? So now let's take a look at where that racks up against everybody else on QB sneaks per Next Gen Stats. It is 84.4% success rate for Philadelphia on QB sneaks. The rest of the NFL, the other 31 teams, 79.3%. Guys, that's like a 5% difference. I don't understand the massive advantage here that Philadelphia is gaining. I do think the 9 that they were stopped, they still scored on those drives. So I think that's some of the frustration that some teams have had, where it's still, even when you stop them, they had the ability to still score on all of those drives. But the AFC title game, Josh Allen's enormous. I've stood on the field next to him in pads. He gets stopped. They lose the game. They don't go to the Super Bowl.
Actually, I don't think he got stopped, but that's neither here nor there.
Here, they're there, yes. Put the chips in the football. And so, like, I don't think a play should be banned when one team is utilizing it to their advantage. It's not universally successful across the board. The other portion of it is somebody brought up safety with the play. The safety for this, to my understanding, has been evaluated by the league for the last 3 seasons, and Jeff Miller believes that there's no data that says this is an unsafe play. So you can throw that out the window as well, because the league for the last 3 years has been evaluating whether it's a safe play.
That's that's kind of dirty pool too, JP. It's like, all right, what's something that we can maybe use to rush this through legislation? Say it could hurt somebody, say it affects brain health and things like that. It's like,
100%. I think that's true.
I find this, this is laughable to me. This is, I cannot believe, if I were a Green Bay Packers fan and my team and my management and my organization went after this in public and said, we're so weak that we want to take away a play that another team does well, and we're putting our team's name on that, total disgrace. Go find a way to stop it. Go do it better. This is a joke to me. Teams have been doing certain things better than other teams.
Flawed, slightly ridiculous, a pantomime, a joke on many levels.
we got you, Mark. We got you.
Justin, it is 11:30 at night, so I'll accept that. But I find this disgraceful. Like, go stop it. Or go be better at it. Like, the idea that we need to take away something that, and to James's point, statistically, it's not like there's something happening here that's from another Earth or another universe. Like, stop it. Find a way to be better at it. Don't be the team that complained about it and try to change the rule. You look weak.
But nobody
You look weak, and football is about strength, and this is the opposite.
And I know I'm talking to 2 Eagles fans here, so I know I'm
not an
banging up
Eagles
against
fan.
the wall here. But one's got a Dom like hoodie and teddy bear, and the other guy's from Philly. So I understand that this is tough. But do you guys will you at least allow that it's not aesthetically pleasing as a football play, and seeing it used repeatedly is, we don't have to get bogged down here. I'm just saying, will we at least allow that it's not a thing of beauty for a game, that some of the most beautiful things about football is the strategy of how to beat your opponent? I'm just saying that. That's all.
I don't know. Looks like a very prominent play in some other sports. Identical to rugby. Like, it's just.
I don't think that at all.
I don't know. My last thing on it is just like, if the Eagles' stats on this were overwhelmingly to their advantage, which they're not. Brady's quarterback sneak was virtually unstoppable.
Absolutely. Great callback. Absolutely.
One of the things that nobody ever really talks about. He couldn't be stopped on a QB sneak. I don't think, obviously it's breaking the will of other teams, I think. But I do know Jeff Stoutland is an unbelievable coach on the offensive line. And there's some things here that Philadelphia's doing apparently that nobody else can do and nobody else can figure out. It may bother some people, but I don't them in 3rd and short. Like, don't let them get 3rd and short.
But isn't it strange that no other team can do this?
That's the part that bothers me. Like, if everybody,
I do think other teams could do it. We see other teams do it. It's not like only the Eagles do the tush push at this point. Like, legit, we just mentioned that Bills play. They got screwed by a bad call, but like, they used it. You see regularly. You see the Bills use something similar to that. Like, and there are other teams also. I feel like it's not only the Eagles.
Like Dan might you're right, but it's like the Eagles, who continually find a way to get plays that they run, get nicknames with more than other teams. But like, when they line up to do it, it just feels like they're going to get it done. And like, other teams have tried and they've not been there. There should be 22 other teams that do it just as well, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
In other news, the Chiefs, who were defeated by the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they, a lot of questions about Travis Kelce and where he fits in, if at all, with the Chiefs in 2025 and beyond. Chiefs GM Brett Veach said he is, quote, anticipating the future Hall of Famer being on the roster. Let's hear what this sounded like.
How we left at the end of the season is that he was fired up. He has one more year under contract, and still think he has that fire and desire to play. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no deadline. I think we left it as he'd be back, and we're excited to get him back and get him going.
This might seem like blasphemy, but is it in the Chiefs' best interest for Travis Kelce to have a big role on the team going forward? I mean, I know he had a big playoff game, but there were a lot of games where he just looked like a player past his expiration date, and maybe it would be time for younger players on that roster to have a central role in this offense. It does feel like a time of transition for the Chiefs as they try to continue this incredible run they've been on, coming off a very humbling loss. And going back to the Kelce well again, it's fair to wonder if that's even the right move with him, almost 35 years old at this point.
Oh, he's 35.
Yeah.
He's every bit 35. Gronk's 35. He's been retired for 3 years. Guys, he's not coming back. Listen, I would say this. He's not the same player. I've had a number of coaches on that staff tell me he's not the same player. He's lost a step. I had one coach tell me this year before a game, James, if you race Travis Kelce, you'd probably beat him. Like that literally was said to me. That doesn't mean he still can't play football, honestly, because he's so good in space. He's so good with his football IQ. Does he come back on a comeback route like plant and come back? No, it takes him like 3 steps and then he comes back. These are all things that are knocks to where he's at right now, but I think the Chiefs value the intangibles that Travis Kelce brings, which is he practices at 100 miles an hour every single day. He brings an attitude that is a big reason why they've been successful for so long, because of what him and Patrick do within the building and what happens in meetings and what happens in practice. I think you still would get that next year. I think one thing you did say, Dan, that I would push back on a little bit is say, I don't think he'll have the same role. I think it would be a different role in 2026. I think we knew at the start of this season, this was Rashee Rice as the lead option in the passing game. And that's going to be the case in 2026 or 2025. And so it's going to be Worthy and it's going to be Rashee Rice, and probably Rice, then Worthy, and can Travis eat off of that in the middle of the field when these two other guys, and they'd like to bring Hollywood Brown back, to my understanding. So I think his role would be different, but I think they still want him in the building. And I think they kind of want some sort of swan song. Like he knows about a tour, guys. He knows about a tour.
He does.
Yeah,
he's
does.
been
He can
he's been
tour
on
the
the road.
NFL in 2025 as is so long. And I think that's might be the way this thing plays out.
He had his lowest, fewest yards since his rookie year, fewest yards per reception. But you said it in the building. I think part of it is the Travis Kelce human experience inside that locker room, and I'd bring him back in a second. Like I think the thing about they got waxed in the Super Bowl. But the one thing we're forgetting about Kansas City is that their wide receiver room by the end, after adding all these parts, and especially when you get Rice back, like you've got other weapons. Like they don't have to be the same offense they were plotting down the stretch. And so he doesn't have to be the savior, and he wasn't this season. So Adam, keep him? Sure, I would keep him because I think he means a lot to the heart and beating soul of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he was overly invested in the Super Bowl, but that was a tough game for everybody involved
Well, there's
in
some
the game.
tough Twitter clips out there about him.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put too much into that
Brett
because you
Veach
could
said
easily.
that he was very sick the week of the Super Bowl. Brett Veach said he was battling something very gnarly.
Okay, well that's good to know. But I think it would be a mistake. There's the old Parcellsism progress stopper. He shouldn't be getting 133 targets next year because he's not going to get faster next year. That's just the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
All right.
I will say, Dan,
Yes.
he really, I wouldn't be surprised with everything going on. I've had people in that building tell me he really loved being inside the building because it was a way to get away from everything that is going on with him. And I don't know if he wants that part to end. It was kind of like his getaway spot.
He's like, Taylor, I just need to take a little drive. I need to take a little drive.
Hey, Taylor's not touring internationally this offseason, so he will be in the States. That will help him, I guess. Okay, we can move on.
Okay. The NBA season is heading down the final stretch, and Underdog has tons of fun ways to get in on the action with nightly NBA pick'em slates, plenty of discounts and promos all week long, and you can even play against other users with daily tournaments and private drafts where Underdog is giving out over $100,000 every single day. That seems like a lot. I know that our company is doing well, but I'm just saying I read the copy. If you're giving out $100,000 every day, maybe throw $100,000 JP's way.
Yeah,
throw $100,000 Sessdog's way.
I'll take 75.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take $20,000 to give Graver's dog a heated doghouse. So he doesn't have to hold him against his flesh.
Yeah, surprised he still wants to do this in Dallas.
Anyway, just download the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus credits for our U.S. audience only. In other news, The Cincinnati Bengals, we talked about them last week. They got a lot of work to do, and they have to keep the quarterback happy. They got to actually get better as a team. They need to fix both sides of the ball. Certainly the defensive side needs help beyond just the DC change. Anyway, Bengals Director of Player Personnel Duke Tobin said Cincinnati is preparing to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-QB in the NFL. Whoa. Here's what Duke had to say in Indy.
Jamar is always going to be our priority. He's a fantastic football player. He's going to end up being the number one paid non-quarterback in the league. We're there. Let's get it done. The earlier we can do some of this stuff, the freer it gives us to build the rest of the team. We have other needs that we want to build, and so we want to get these kind of things done early enough to where we can really focus on building out the rest of the football team. But they're all priorities to us, but the ones that aren't signed are the ones that are on the table first.
Okay. This one, Mark, seems to be the one they just got to get done. Like the other ones, you could figure out if you want to do it all, or you know what? When I say do it all, do you want to do Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, this guy, that guy? But it starts with locking in the guy that just won the Triple Crown, and then you move on from there.
Or you're a fatalized franchise. Like you have no choice. You must do it. And I also think that, you know, today's front office figures and general managers, you look at the cap and it's like, we can do anything. We can make anything work with the way the cap is. And the best front offices are pushing money down the road in ways that trust that the cap will just keep growing. And so if you don't get this done, you are a franchise that doesn't understand how modern day football works. And I don't believe that's what the Bengals want to be here. And you've got a quarterback saying, if this doesn't happen, you are going to have big issues. And so, yes, you get it done. He sounded like Dwight D. Eisenhower's exit speech from the White House there. Not that I was alive during that time, but it was like very pedantic. We get it. Like, it's just case by case, little point by point. Like, this is not unpredictable. This will happen. The Bengals will do this.
Who was your president when you came into the earth?
I was born in 73, so that would have been...
Nixon?
No. Yeah, Nixon.
No, you got Ford, I think. I think Nixon was out by 72.
No, Ford came. No, Nixon, no, because I actually was born on the day that the Nixon's vice president, Agnew, I believe, was shotgunned out of the White House, like as a scapegoat. So literally on my birthday, I believe.
1473, when you became a vampire, or...
We have a producer whose nipple is being suckled by a dog right now, and so I'm not taking tips from you right at the moment. How about that?
Hey, that is an extreme way to put it.
That is pretty crazy, Mark. That you,
yeah. I agree with our producer,
James.
I had my hands in my face. I do think we heard some different things from Duke Tobin in this press conference than we've heard from the Cincinnati Bengals in the past. But how dare he go up there and say, we got to get these things done early. We got to get these things. You had the chance to do it last year.
Stop
and
it.
you couldn't get it done. They've waited with these deals. That's been their problem. What we're waiting to see, and I do think there was some other comments from Duke Tobin that I think sounded different than what we've seen coming out of Cincinnati, right? Like, we are going to spend. We are going to make these guys a part of our priority in moving forward, when we've seen so many guys leave that building because they couldn't get contracts done with them. What we're waiting to see, Joe Burrow, flowy, beautiful locks and all, is waiting like this going, are you going to change the way you do business? And that's why they couldn't get it done with Jamar Chase at the 11th hour last year. They were already going to make him the highest paid player outside of the quarterback position last year. They just couldn't come to an agreement on the guarantees and the length of the guarantees, because they have certain rules as an organization that other teams don't follow. They don't want to give guarantees past the first year. They don't want to guarantee this or that. Joe Burrow's looking to see if they're going to change the way they do business, because they have to if they want to compete. What Mark said is exactly right. And the reason other teams are pushing money down the line, you look at Jeffrey Lurie and what the Eagles are doing. What does Jeffrey Lurie specialize in? What did he do before he bought a team? Did he know television, right? Did he know movies? Did he know the entertainment business? There's another rights deal coming up that they can get out of in 2029. They're pushing the Eagles' money past 29 and 30 because it's going to skyrocket again when the next media rights come up and Netflix gets involved and all of these things. The Bengals are archaic in the way they do these contracts, and Joe Burrow and all of us are waiting to see if they change the way they structure this stuff. And I think we got some hints from Duke Tobin that they might, because they can get all these deals done. We'll see if they do, but they financially can get them done.
I am not a crook.
What, you were born in 80? Is that correct? Like in April of 80, I believe.
Correct.
So you were a Ronald Reagan baby.
I identify with Ron Reagan. It might have been Jimmy. It might have
no,
still
it's
been
Jimmy
Elvis.
Carter, I believe.
Yeah.
No, Reagan was 84.
No, Reagan was inaugurated in 81, January 81.
So you were the final days of Jimmy Carter's
the great peanut farmer.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter, rest in peace. All right. Anyway, I don't know how this is going to go over. I haven't checked in with the echo chamber over there in the football cognoscente. I do know that people are very in their feelings about Anthony Richardson getting benched midway through last season as he struggled through his second season as a professional quarterback with the Colts. Well, enter General Manager Chris Ballard, the unkillable executive of the Indianapolis Colts, who made it very clear that the days of Anthony Richardson being the unquestioned QB1 with the team are at an end.
Like when we drafted Anthony high, knowing it was going to take some time, all right? And we knew there's going to be some hiccups along the way. And it's I know we all want a finished product right now. I do. You do. Fans do. We all do. But I think as he continues to progress in his young career, us adding competition, I think will help up everybody's game. It'll be open. That's correct.
I think, if I'm reading this one right, that they absolutely intend for Anthony Richardson to be their week one quarterback. That's how I gauge it. That I think they probably still believe deep down he could be the dude for them. But they've now reached the point where there's enough doubt creeping into the room, both because of some of the struggles as a passer and also the struggles to stay healthy, that they have to have a plan B in a meaningful way. Do you see it that way, James?
Yeah, I find it very interesting. Like what you just said is like he's no longer the unquestioned starter. He wasn't the unquestioned starter last year. Like he hasn't had snaps, and the Colts, for some reason, refuse to continuously give him snaps. We look at all the guys that are being successful entering
for some reason
NFL career.
Oh, you're a Richardson truther too, Palmer, huh?
No. I'm going to say it. Listen, I've talked to enough people in the league. They think he just can't throw the football. Like literally cannot throw it. But if you're going to pick a guy that high, you got to at least go all in to see if he's the guy.
I agree.
And going back and forth on it. And a lot of this is Anthony Richardson's fault. Like what he said and had to go around that locker room and kind of, pulled himself out of a game last year. Like you look at like Jane Daniels and Michael Penix and Bo Nix and all of these guys, they've played a ton of football coming into the league. Anthony Richardson has barely played football. So I don't get why you keep working in a manner where you don't have him play football. If you want to work that way, then just move on. I think that's what I would do. In the good teams in this league, they move on quicker than the teams that linger and try to decide.
But James, I don't see it as quite that black and white, where it's if you put him on the bench in year 2 because he's really struggling, he's not even completing 50% of his passes, that doesn't mean that you're like not committed to developing him. It means you're saying, man, right now he's in a tough spot. So we're going to go get this veteran that we picked up in the offseason, and we're going to try to reset him. It worked in Charlotte with Bryce Young, right? And now everybody's feeling great about him. But for some reason with Richardson, it was seen by many people as some type of abandonment of him as a prospect. I just think they're kind of a team, Sessy, in a tough spot where they did invest all this in him. They believe so much in him, but then there's mounting evidence that he might not be the guy. So they're kind of caught in this in-between, which is probably a very uncomfortable place for a GM and a head coach that knows they have to start winning soon or it's over.
Yeah, I think uncomfortable is the right word because, I mean, Anthony Richardson could use the offseason should be the time to really grow this quarterback. And this is someone that is an atypical draft pick because I think the athleticism piqued everyone's interest, but so few college starts, such little college experience, and you come into suddenly having to deal with the NFL, and this is not a dress rehearsal. If you're Shane Steichen, like, you don't have 7 years to figure this out. And like, you start to put, and if you're Shane Steichen, you're thinking about the rest of your coaching staff, like, you can't get this wrong. Like, if he's not going to win you games, if he's going to falter and fumble and not figure out the NFL game, like, you've got to find out, you've got to show who you are as a coach. So if this is an uncoachable player who can't develop, you've got to move on. I'm not saying that's where we're at with him, but it's like, we don't just run an experiment here. This isn't 7th grade science class. Like, you've got to figure out a winning quarterback situation, and also the durability. Years in a row, the Colts have had to, under Shane Steichen, move on to different quarterbacks. And it's like, do you think Shane Steichen would like someone he could rely on for 17 games in a row? Yes.
Let me ask you
this
this,
the guy?
James.
I don't think so.
I would.
Let me just ask you a question, James. Let me just ask you a question. Do you think if the Colts, and I'm not saying I haven't heard this, but in a year where there's not a great draft class with quarterbacks and not a lot of great veteran options, what do you think the Colts could potentially fetch if they were to put Richardson on the block ahead of the draft?
Wow.
Do you think he would get a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick? Like, where do you think his value is across the league after 2 years?
There's enough people I've talked to in the league that just think he can't play. So then those teams are just out immediately. You're right, because of the landscape, could he fetch a little bit more? You're still getting the rookie contract. You're still getting enough people in this league that go, wait till I get my hands on him, because that's the way every head coach in the NFL thinks is, well, they're just not doing it right. Wait till I coach them. So there's going to be somebody, I think, that would take a flyer. I don't know if you're getting a 2nd-round pick. I don't know. I don't know if you are. I could see Russell Wilson landing there, by the way. I could see that being a spot.
Whoa.
But I would say real quick, and I understand the similarities between Carolina, but there's plenty of differences as well. Like, Dave Canales did not draft Bryce Young. Shane Steichen handpicked Anthony Richardson. Big difference. And I think you guys would agree with me, the feel and the vibe of the way both situations were handled, very different by the organizations in which what we saw and what ended up happening. So it's been kind of a mess there. But I don't know I don't think he'd fetch a lot, because there's enough people I've talked to that just do not think he can play.
Let's check in. Let's stay in the AFC South.
Okay.
Let's check in with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They hired a general manager, a young man, a very impressive young man, I call him. In fact, he is 34 years old, James Gladstone, which means he is Bill Clinton baby? Yeah, is he a Bubba baby?
Well, he's got me by 1 year.
I did not have relations with that woman.
Is that 91?
That's 91. That's
all of them.
That's
Wow.
Bush.
That is Bush.
That's George Bush Sr.
Oh, and then you see, and then we get over to
Not
Ceci's
gonna
favorite guy,
gotta
Garvey.
steeple. You gotta steeple. You gotta steeple.
What is that? Who is that?
That was my Dana Carvey doing like.
Yeah.
I thought his
You
was like,
gotta
not
steeple.
gonna do it.
Yeah, that's
not
how
gonna. Wouldn't
No,
be
that was Ross
pruning.
Perot. That was
Well, Ross
Perot.
was like, "Are you? Can you let me finish?"
Oh, Mark, you've very rarely done character work on the show, and I'm enjoying it.
There's
they all
a good
have
reason.
Basically same like kind of voice to them. It's like
There's a
it's
good reason
Southern-
I don't do character
yeah.
work, because I'm not skilled at it. But they squared off against each other in some of the better.
Oh, we've enjoyed it. We're enjoying it.
Yeah.
All right, let's check in on. I don't know what's going on in Jacksonville right now, but let's check in with the boy who would be GM, James Gladstone.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the best of Trevor, and I'm really excited for Liam to get a chance to work with him, support him, and really bring the tools that he has in his arsenal to life. And I think it starts by the protection.
Wouldn't it be
right?
prudent?
Making sure that he feels like he's got as much time to work with as possible, and also that he's comfortable with the pass catchers. And so I think through that lens, he's going to feel that change in both the operation schematically and then the personnel that we invite into the building.
I'd probably put on like a suit or something. I mean, I think he looks stylish. I think like James Palmer, for instance, is sartorial in every way.
That's a rugged coat.
I would
He looks
probably
rugged.
put on. I would put on the old monkey suit just to to age up a little bit. He honestly looks like he's 14 years old.
Can I counter that? I think if he put a suit and like a tie on, he would look younger.
You think he'd
look like he was getting his like first communion. So like I kind of like where he's going. He attempted, I think, to look kind of like countryside rugged here.
Play the age.
This is like his Justin Timberlake Man of the Woods era.
Yeah.
I just, it's striking to me that that's the general manager of a NFL team. But go ahead.
I like that what Mark said, because I kept picturing when Tom Hanks becomes small again at the end of Big, and he would, if he wore a suit, he would have looked like a young Josh Baskins.
Yes,
out there just.
You can't do the oversized suit. Remember Ben McAdoo?
Over the oversized. Yeah, that'd be a bad look.
It's got to be a fitted. It's got to be well fitted. We just got to age him up a little bit, maybe in post. If I'm the Jaguars.
Post. Jaguars.com suddenly much bigger job.
Yeah. Oh,
all right, Mark. Anyway, so keep an eye on that Gladstone. I'm kind of into him.
It out.
Bush should be like, "We got that guy down there. We got that guy down there."
It looks like we got another Reagan baby over there with his Dave Coulier reference.
Dave Coulier, that's right, baby. Woo. Ow.
By the way, that would be Gladstone would actually be a George H.W. Bush baby, because it was 91, I believe he was probably born.
Well, that's what we're saying. It was 91.
Yeah.
So he's like, "We got that guy down there. We got this guy over here." Like that's the first Bush.
We had. Yes.
We covered that, Dan, and you missed it.
We talked about that before.
And then you started doing a Bill Clinton bit during the Gladstone clip.
We had a guy, I'll just say his first name. His name was Paul. In the old days at NFL.com in the newsroom. And I'll never forget it, because it was a Monday night game. It could have been a Thursday night game. It was a primetime game.
It was a Steelers Niners game,
yes,
where
San
the
Francisco.
Electricity went out or some weird thing.
Power goes out in the middle of the game, which led to a stoppage. But anyway, it happened to be also the company holiday party, and this is when NFL media was a much smaller operation.
An irresponsible operation.
And we were at this. We rented out this little Mexican place. The company rented out this little Mexican place in Playa del Rey, about 15 minutes from the office. And Mark, you and I were there, and I don't know if James might have been. This might have predated.
I wasn't
James.
invited to any of the holiday parties. They wouldn't fly people in.
Oh yeah, but anyway, point being, there was a man back then. It would be one guy, and I was that guy many nights as well, because you worked a lot of early shifts, Mark. I would work the late shift a lot.
Right.
You would be the last man standing in the newsroom in case shit went down before like 11 p.m. Anyway, the guy named Paul. One night we're at this holiday party, and we knew it was Paul's night in the newsroom, and we knew that there was a major issue with a power outage, and that's a news story during the game. And we turn around, we're at the bar, we turn around, and there's Paul, and Paul's just piling up his plate. He's at the buffet, and he's piling the plate up, and we're like, "Paul, what are you doing here?" And the reason I thought of this is because Mark, every impression Mark has done tonight is also the Paul impression. So what did Paul say when we asked him, "Hey, buddy, aren't you supposed to be at the newsroom right now?"
He'd be like, "Well, my Mozilla wasn't working, so I had to leave." But like, he was a little older, so he was tech challenged. But what are the things like the shells? The shells that you'd put like a massive Mexican amount of stuff in.
Oh yeah, like the tortilla, like the.
Well, it's not a tortilla, but it's like it's almost like a thing. Well, no, like
not a tortilla.
Do you know what I mean? Like the huge, like hard shells that you put a salad in. Like,
yeah,
hello everybody. These things. And by the way, like here's the thing. Like it's like, well, what he was hoping for, because you said 15 minutes. Playa del Rey from NFL.com in traffic, in LA traffic at night, was probably 27 to 28 minutes, and like he had left the office to go eat the food at the free party. But like, we're talking about a Monday night game, a Steelers-Niners game, where electricity actually had gone out or something. There was a stoppage. It was a true news story. And he felt that was a good time to leave.
I'm not missing my chance at the buffet with these tortilla bowls.
He's like, "My Mozilla don't work. Like, I got to call IT."
He literally called the browser Mozilla. All right, anyway. Okay. Focus up.
Justin is staring at us with a certain look, but he's got an animal under his shirt. So there's no,
there's an animal on his nipple right now, so that's why he can't move. He can't move suddenly. All right, we're going to talk a little Browns, Mark, so trigger warning. Myles Garrett asked out of town a couple weeks back. Here's Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Browns, on Myles Garrett and whether they will honor his request for a trade. So far, Cleveland has been pretty steadfast that they're not looking to do that.
Before I open up for questions, let me just touch on Myles. So Myles,
Berry looking
as
jacked.
you guys have all heard me say, he's a huge part of our organization, really good person. He's an awesome player. Understand the trade request and everything, but our stance really has not changed. We can't imagine a situation where not having Myles as a part of the organization is best for the Browns. So I just want to hit that off the top, and with that, I'll open up for questions.
Yeah, because then there will be no follow-ups about arguably the best player, defensive player in football. James, I am going to sniff this one out. This is all posturing. The Browns know that Myles Garrett is done with Cleveland, and they're just trying to get a nice, juicy trade package. I don't know, just the vibe I got. Based on that answer, what do you think?
I don't know. First, Andrew Berry looked great.
Unbelievable.
Outstanding. Our fathers worked together back in the day,
Really?
which is a little side note. But I've been told so far that people that have called, and they've called, are not getting calls back. That's not happening right now. Now, what is happening in Indianapolis this week is Andrew Berry's getting a very good sense of what teams would want to give up in terms of compensation, because the teams are not afraid to tell him if they see him.
Tell the truth.
Have that discussion with him. But from my understanding is they don't want to give up Myles Garrett. They don't think they're that far off. Like, if you look at the last two teams that had the number 2 overall pick, how quickly did they turn things around? Houston turned it around pretty quickly 2 years ago. Washington turned it around pretty quickly this past year. Now the Browns have the number 2 pick. Possibly does that happen again with them? I don't think Andrew Berry wants to be known as the guy that did the worst trade in the history of the NFL and then also traded Myles Garrett in his prime out of Cleveland. Now, could this change? Could what they do in free agency change Myles Garrett's opinion? Could this change by the time the first round starts up and it heats up that they realize that they're at a standstill? It financially doesn't help them to trade him afterwards, which is kind of funny, but like the picks would be worse if they traded him after the draft, right? Because he's going to make that team they trade him to better, which means the picks will probably be lower. And so I would think we're really going to get our final answer during the hour leading into the draft and the way the first day goes, the first night, and then we'll know for sure. But for right now, I do think they do not want to trade Myles Garrett. I get it.
I wouldn't want to trade Myles Garrett either.
No,
Mark.
I find what Washington's doing financially on their D-line right now kind of interesting. Do you?
Oh, you're right about that. Myles Garrett is the archetype of the modern player that is not going to have his career dictated by the team. I think he wants to understand that the Cleveland Browns have a plan, and he's completely right about that. And I would enforce the Cleveland Browns to trade him if they don't have a plan. I do wonder, James, you said it all, so I'm not going to be redundant, but like, if they told Myles Garrett, like, we're going to draft one of the 2 quarterbacks.
I think they're picking a quarterback at 2.
Right. Like, we've got and if you don't, what are you doing? You don't take an edge rusher there. It's like, if you're going to do that, can you get Myles Garrett to buy in? If he's not going to buy in, you have a chance, even though you're right. It's the GM that would be moving on from Myles Garrett and traded for or sold the farm for Deshaun Watson. You could get so much back from Myles Garrett that maybe you repair some of that and rebuild the team. Like, it's attractive if you're a Browns fan, I think, to consider the concept, if this player doesn't want to be here, that you could get such a bounty for him that you could rebuild a different type of Browns team. That's all I'd say. It's a bit of a defeat, but there's something could come from it. I don't want to keep a player who doesn't want to be there. That does not feel good.
The Browns are ready to pay him, though. I will say that. They're ready to give him a new contract.
They want him.
They're so top heavy. They're ready to pay everyone.
Yeah.
Like if you go look at how the way their player salaries are structured, it is one of the most insane teams in the league, and they keep pushing money down the line, like we talked about, because they don't believe the cap will ever not allow them to do that.
Nobody wants to trade a player that good in the middle of his career, but if he wants out, you can't be stubborn and
right.
Well, what you have to do is gauge
transition.
that if this thing's going to continue into training camp, then you're really screwed. Then you missed your window to benefit from it the best possible way. So it's kind of a game of chicken they're playing right now. And I think there's some teams that are kind of trying to show the Browns that they're willing to make this move. It'll be multiple ones. It'll be.
Yeah. Multiple ones for what is he? He's entering his late 20s. Like if you gotta figure out where you're at as an organization. It might be the right move as much as it hurts. Also might be the right move as much as it hurts. The way the Browns are planning to handle Nick Chubb's free agency. Barry said he also expects Chubb to, quote, hit the market, which means, that Chubb doesn't seem to be a priority right now. The running back coming off 2 lower body injuries, including a devastating knee injury in the 2023 season. So it could be the Browns could begin the 2025 season without Myles Garrett or Nick Chubb, which is pretty hard to believe, but that could be where it's heading. All right. Hey, by the way, did you guys know Underdog isn't just higher, lower pick'em entries? They also have streaks. You can enter for $1, get a nice streak going, and win as much as 1,000 times your entry. Or if you have a nice streak and you don't want to risk it anymore, you could cash your streak out anytime. Check out Streaks by scanning the QR code on the screen to download the Underdog app or sign up with the code HTC and receive up to $1,000 in bonus credits for our U.S. audience only. Real quick, couple other things here. Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta said that the allegations of sexual misconduct around Justin Tucker is, quote, serious and concerning, but indicated that the team will be waiting before determining his future in Baltimore. That's pretty par for the course, how the Ravens seem to handle these type of situations. The Bills and wide receiver Khalil Shakir agreed to terms on a 4-year contract extension worth up to $60.2 million, including $32 million guaranteed at signing. And yes, as James Palmer alluded to slyly and professionally, Commanders defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, who has 1 year left on his deal, was informed by the franchise that he has permission to seek a trade per sources. So we already know, and I talked about it last week on, who to keep an eye on, the most important figures this offseason, the Commanders and all that cap money and all that optimism with the young quarterback, them setting up the old Independence Day move where the spaceship is aligning over the Empire State Building. They are going to make a big offer, you would think, for Myles Garrett. And then once again, Andrew Berry would have to have the guts to walk away from a huge bounty potentially. That seems like where it's heading, James, if it's not already there.
I think we've seen what Adam Peters is doing. I think he's one of the better GMs in football. He's one of the better evaluators at the GM spot in football. You've seen him already jettison multiple first-round picks from the previous regime out of there. Just no, you're not part of what we're doing moving forward. And I don't know if that's exactly the way it is with Jonathan Allen, honestly, because he's been a big voice in that locker room, a positive voice in that locker room, and a big part of what they've gone through. But if you look at what they save, which I think is like $16.4 million from the cap of moving on from him, this is also a draft just chock full of defensive linemen and defensive tackles specifically that you can go and get. But at the same time, free up some cap. You got a ton to spend on. Do you go and make a play for Myles Garrett to help that defensive line that was not good this past year, 30th against the run as well? I know that's not Myles' specialty, but he actually still is very good against the run, as well as getting after the quarterback. I'm keeping my eye on Washington about everything and what they're doing. And I see them building in the trenches right now. And then Adam Peters is very good at picking receivers in the draft. I could see them going in the free agency world in the trenches much more so than the skill guys.
Well said.
Wow. Thanks.
Oh, Mark, I have yes. Andrew Berry when someone calls about Myles Garrett. Here we go.
Okay.
Not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
He's like, we got this guy over here, and the steeple.
I got to fix my Mozilla. All right. Anything else? Did we catch everything? Justin, you got any domesticated animals underneath your garments right now that we need to know about?
A domesticated bean.
Bean. That's his name. Yes. Bean is here still.
Let's see Bean. Let's see if he
I
looks
can do this
nourished.
without showing my.
Why must
body.
he be under? Why must he be touching
I
skin?
do this without showing my body. What a weird show we got going on tonight.
Bean.
He is adorable. That's a cute dog.
That is a cute dog. I do question his morals, but beyond that,
Who, the dog or the owner?
why must the dog
With
be
a
connected to
relationship.
someone's? Well, yes, but both. Like, why must he be skin touching unceasingly?
That's what he
Who
likes.
do you think, Justin? Who likes it more?
Well, that's
You?
a question.
The Bean?
Probably him, but it's
Okay.
close.
You paused. I like it. It's tight race.
Pause, because he's a dog. Nice one. James.
Aw. Oh, one more thing. Mike McDaniel tells reporters that wide receiver Tyreek Hill had surgery on his wrist to fix a ligament issue. He'll be out most of the offseason. So I had mentioned last week, and I still believe it, the Dolphins should really consider trading Hill and trying to recoup some assets. Well, having a bum ligament, that if they were interested in that makes it a little more tricky. But yeah, that's what's going on there. All right.
Okay.
Anything else were there any dumb rumors or anything, Justin, that you saw pop up on the old social
Dumb
media?
rumors.
Yeah, I saw one pretty dumb rumor about Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and
Oh, that
apparently,
guy. The
you know,
guy.
apparently, this is Pat Leonard. Sources tell the Daily News that Aaron Rodgers prefers to play for the Rams and that the outgoing Jets quarterback would bring Davante Adams with him once the Jets receiver becomes a free agent. That can only happen if Matthew Stafford gets traded. Enter Giants general manager Joe Shane. Okay, lots going on in that tweet.
Do you think it's weird? Like, Davante Adams is one of the great wide receivers of his generation. Just a brilliant football player.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be a Hall of Famer potentially. And now he's just like, I don't know. It feels like he's like Aaron Rodgers' lapdog. He's like, where are we going next?
Around.
Like,
Yeah, he's under the shirt. And
he's under
like,
the shirt. He's on the
where are
team.
we
He's under
headed
the
next?
shirt. He's like, Davante, why are we doing this? Like, why are we in the Aaron Rodgers sidecar? Like, when did we lose our agency? Like, you're a superstar, bro.
That's what happens when you
How
go...
about this? How about this? Davante Adams, you go where you want to go, and then you tell the old man, if you want to join me, join me. I choose this time.
Well,
When you picked, it was the fucking Jets.
He's got that Jets stink on him, I think.
Well, he's scarred from playing with Derek Carr. Now he's like, shit.
It's not just the
He
Jets.
wanted to
He's got
play with
the
Derek
Raiders stink on him. Like, how about we stop following quarterbacks to cities and teams that maybe it's not the best setup? Why don't we go to Kansas City, Davante? And if Aaron wants to be the backup and with the Chiefs, that's great. That's great.
Carson will be out of there probably. Yeah.
Take
Probably
back
open.
agency, Davante Adams. That is some unsolicited advice from the old Zuzzer.
I like it.
Anything else, guys?
I do think the Stafford thing is like maybe the biggest thing of in terms of late night conversations in Indianapolis this week. I think the Stafford discussions, that's going to happen sooner than later. That coming to a conclusion in the next couple of weeks. And I think those conversations, obviously they even started before the Super Bowl with his representatives and other teams. This is a wild situation. I think it's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. And
If you were to pick a landing spot, James, what would you
Wait, what's going to hain? You think
he's going to move?
the
right?
decision, whether he's staying and they get a deal like ready and going, or they're just not gonna do it. Cue the stupid phone. Not gonna do it, and they're gonna, he's gonna play elsewhere. Because everything in terms of a framework is already getting worked out. Teams know what they're going to need to offer. They've known that for a little bit. They've started to put that in place. The Rams know what teams are going to offer. Stafford knows what teams are going to offer. And so, yeah. And if I was going to pick a team, I'll go crazy here. I think the Steelers are a really, really interesting play.
Wow.
I think for the first time, we're seeing Pittsburgh kind of have some pressure. I think Mike Tomlin's an outstanding coach, but I do think the pressure there has changed for the first time in forever. For the first time in forever. And
very musical episode.
It really is. And they know the Band-Aid that they keep putting on the quarterback position since Roethlisberger retired just hasn't worked. It has the feel with the rumor about Trevor Lawrence and like that maybe they'll swing bigger this offseason to fill that spot. And that would be a much bigger swing. And don't you think that puts them in that group in the AFC or at least closer to it?
I do. I think that would help the Steelers. The only thing I would say is like,
you know, I'm a degenerate.
Like Matthew Stafford might want to, unless there's more going on behind the scenes in Los Angeles than we realize, and maybe he's just unhappy there now. Like, you got a good setup, dude. I know you're trying to get that extra $10 million or whatever, but like, you are playing in a pretty chill market in a beautiful stadium in a gorgeous city. For a gifted play caller, like it feels like you have an elite number one receiver. That's
really a better situation than Pittsburgh. Like,
or do you want to go to
it totally is, but
we're talking about the Giants, like
$40 million or $45 million or $50. I think Stafford wants that. I think he deserves that. Honestly,
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but if it comes down to getting 50 to play in Pittsburgh and everything that comes with that at this stage in your career, after playing your first 10 years in a dome in Detroit and then going to LA, and now you're going to be playing in freezing temperatures and like a run first offense. I don't know. It's just like, and along those same lines, my only other thought is I'm on the record that I still think Aaron Rodgers can play quarterback. Everything else that made him a pain in the ass is why I'm not pissed about what the Jets did, even if it's weird that they don't really have a plan B. Aaron Rodgers could absolutely succeed in that position if Stafford were to vacate it, and the Rams 100%. Would be a very, as much as I know a lot of people don't like Rodgers for different reasons, I still think he's good theater, and Rodgers here in LA for the Rams, we'd be watching him on primetime a lot again, like whether people would want it or not.
And he'd be much cheaper than Stafford, honestly.
I don't care. Yeah. I mean, you may not care, but he's still like, how many other quarterbacks on the market right now are better than Aaron Rodgers? Name them. I'll wait.
If you call Stafford on the market,
I'll give you Stafford, I guess.
Stafford. Yeah. Would you say Sam Darnold is better than Aaron Rodgers right now?
No.
Probably not.
Well, just because sample size.
I think Darnold, well, it's close, but I think Darnold still needs to prove he needs to prove himself outside the bubble of Minnesota. I think a lot of people tend to agree on that.
I totally agree with that. I think he does need to prove a little bit more, but I also think Aaron's got something to prove that the last 2 years weren't just.
I'm going to get my sack back.
You put him with Sean McVay in LA. I think he cooks a little bit if he can stay healthy, which is a big if at this stage. Yeah.
If you put him in Minnesota, I think he would cook.
I believe that as well. So maybe we do care, Justin.
While you two are speaking, Justin is just playing sound clips to make me laugh, and I'm laughing, and then he's laughing as I'm laughing.
Who, Noah's Ark over there?
Yeah.
The weather sucked, but so did some of my throws.
All right, that's enough. In all seriousness, Justin, thank you. As I wrote in text earlier today, thank you for managing my mania and doing the late night show, getting it to the people. That's what it's about, and we came together and got it done. James, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
and thank you for being the senior NFL reporter for Underdog.
Wow.
When do you thank me? How does
Mark,
that work?
Thank you for being a tie to the Richard Nixon administration.
Okay,
I think Dan is right.
That's apt. Thank you.
You just mesmerize me, Mark. You just mesmerize me like nobody's business.
All right, we'll be back.
Facts. All facts.
We'll be back before you know it with wrapping up the combine, coaches and GMs, anything else, loose ends or reports that come out or deals that go down or whatever, and the great Lance Zierlein from Indy talking about the draft and the combine coming up in our next show. Till then, do what you must. Heed the call.
Ellie Moore.